say it slow, right? Welcome to Saturday night's talk on the Four Noble Truths. Thank you for your patience and waiting from last week. I guess it is the aspire for weekly and achieve fortnightly. I'll begin with Namo Tassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. So, for those of you who've been with me for the whole talk, we're up to the fourth noble truth today, which is the path leading to the end of suffering. But before we get into that, I thought we'd do a quick recap of where we've been so far. The first noble truth, or the diagnosis of the disease, is where suffering and that which we don't like is described. Anything that we don't like and is other than the way we would like it, this is suffering. And the first noble truth connects us together in the truth that we all suffer, and that suffering is a shared reality. The second noble truth, the first noble truth is to be understood. The second noble truth is that the things that we like are the cause of our suffering. Really not obvious at all. Today's been a second noble truth kind of day. In fact, all week last week, I reckon it felt like a dance with Dukkha. Dukkha was my dancing partner, and I could go with the flow, or I could get my feet trodden on, because Dukkha's a bit of a heavy-footed dancer. But today the dukkha was ended, and it's like, pleasant health, that's nice, and all the pleasant things and all the things I like, this is today. Today I was healthy. Today I didn't have painful feelings. Today I could eat the food. Wow, what a pleasant, lovely day. So it's attachment to this day. It's the cause of suffering when I don't have today. Wanting it to be like it was today, every day. Now, for those of you who can have good health every day and who can enjoy their food every day, I would say to you, make sure you don't let discontent with small things get in your way of enjoying what good health you do have and the good things that do surround you. In fact, that's part of the secret of enjoying the dance with Dukkha, is understanding that dukkha is not the whole of your reality. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that's just fine. You're not dead yet, right? And learning how to be content with it just the way it is. And when we're content with dukkha just the way it is, we let go of that craving for the pleasure, that craving for it to become something other than it is. So today, the challenge is how to just enjoy the pleasant feelings without attaching and attaching to it and feeling like this is what's right. It ought to be like this. This is the way it should be. Well, actually, no. This is one of the ways that it can be, and the way it was on Tuesday is another of the ways it can be. And both of those ways, wow, what if I could just be just fine about both of those ways of being, of all of the ways of being? That is the third noble truth. When we're okay letting go of that suffering, ending that craving, ending that attachment, and being just okay with it being just the way it is. So it's okay today. Ooh, no dance of dukkha today so much. And not being too overexcited about that. Yep, pleasant feeling. Bunch of them. And can I be equivalently okay with another day that has a bunch of unpleasant feeling? Okay, there's a different kind of normal. Because this is part of normal, right? The range of normal encompasses pleasant feelings and unpleasant feelings and neutral feelings. This is all normal, it's not an error. So, fourth noble truth kind of day, and that is the everyday training, day to day, day in, day out, this day's training on how to do this letting go of this craving. Because it's subtle, you know, it's not really obvious. It's all very well for me to sit here and go, oh yeah, right, be completely okay with extreme agony. Be completely okay with extreme emotional agony when your relatives are suffering. No, it's really hard. That's not at all obvious how we go about doing that. And sometimes I think it's not entirely obvious how the Noble Eightfold Path brings that about. And yet, this is the prescription, the medicine, the prescribed path of practice, the exercises and lifestyle that we need to engage in on a daily basis for all of the rest of our lives. For this is a multi-lifetime project, right? As many lifetimes as you want to take, that's all right. And for some of us, for some folks, they feel there's no hurry. And, you know, if they get it all done this sasana, okay. Well, if not, they'll wait around for the next sasana. Trouble is, you know, sometimes you can miss the next sasana, so you got to be careful about that one. You know, it can be in the formless realms or in the hell realms the next time human bodies are available. You know, in the next universe, it's only a short period of a universe's lifespan that human bodies are available. And there's a really big portion of a universe's lifespan. There's not even planets available, let alone human bodies living on those planets. There's only a small portion of a universe's lifespan where there's actually planets circling suns in the Goldilocks zone such that human bodies can evolve. So, the path to the ending of suffering. Of course, if you want to come round and round and round and round in samsara forever, well, that's okay too. I'm okay with that. Just not okay with me doing it. I'm kind of over it, really. Stop samsara, I want to get off. But you can't stop samsara. What do you have to do? You have to stop yourself. That's the stillness, isn't it? You have to stop the craving. That's the ending. That's how we get off this rat race. So, the noble truth of the path that leads to the extinction of suffering. And the Buddha first speaks this in his very, very first sermon, the Setting in Motion, the Wheel of Dhamma. Here, Venerable Nyanatiloka, we've been going along with his very, very old translations for quite some time, and then switching across to Bhante Sujato's very, very new translations. And there's not a huge lot of difference actually, but there is a little bit. So, the two extremes in the middle path. Dhammacacckhapavatana Sutta, to give oneself up to indulgence in sensual pleasure, the base, common, vulgar, unholy, unprofitable, or to give oneself up to self-mortification, which means self-torture, the painful, unholy, unprofitable, both these two extremes the perfect one has avoided and has found the middle path, which makes one both see and know, which makes one both to see and to know, which leads to peace, to discernment, to enlightenment, to nibbana. It is this noble eightfold path, the way that leads to the extinction of suffering, namely right understanding or right view, samaditi, right thought or right intention, sammasankappa, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. And you'll see here that Venerable Nyanatiloka groups these into three subgroups. The 8 are grouped into 3 of wisdom, panya, morality, sila, and concentration. And it's very interesting that right effort, or samavayama, is included with samasati and samasamadhi, or right mindfulness and right stillness. Right concentration is the old translation. Ajahn Brahm's been translating it lately as right stillness. Shall we have a look and see what Ajahn Sujato translates this as? So we'll just go and have a look at Rolling Forth the Wheel of Dhamma. These two extremes should not be cultivated by one who has gone forth. What two? Indulgence in sensual pleasures, which is low, crude, ordinary, ignoble, and pointless. Pointless. I like that. It's a complete waste of time in terms of a spiritual path. Indulging in sensual pleasures gets you nowhere. That's what it means, pointless. And indulgence in self-mortification or self-torture, which is painful, ignoble, and also pointless. Avoiding these two extremes, the realized one woke up by understanding the middle way, which gives vision and knowledge, and leads to peace, direct knowledge, awakening, and extinguishment. And what is that middle way? It is simply this Noble Eightfold Path, that is, right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right immersion. So there's an interesting translation of samadhi. Samadhi suffers from the fact that there's no English word that is really a good match for it. Immersion, stillness, concentration. The trouble with the English word concentration is that it has a bunch of meanings embedded in the word that are not part of the word samadhi. And part of the word concentration has sort of like a flavour of straining, of pushing. You've got to concentrate. You know, that flavour of not enjoying your maths homework at 10:30 at night and really having to push to concentrate to finish it. But that samadhi doesn't have that nuance at all, that flavour at all. And so the newer translations of here immersion and with Bhante Ajahn Brahm stillness, we get more of a much more of a passive kind of feel to it. There's not an edge of agitation there. We wouldn't want a word that has an edge of agitation, because we want it to, this is that middle way which gives vision and knowledge, leads to peace, direct knowledge, awakening, and extinguishment, or nibbana. So that's the noble truth of the fourth noble truth of the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is also obviously the middle way. So here he's describing it as the middle way, and then as we go through the sutta, we went through last time, this is the noble truth of suffering, first noble truth of the origin of suffering, noble truth of cessation of suffering, and then finally again this middle way is restated as the fourth noble truth. So even in the rolling forth the wheel of Dhamma, he states the noble eightfold path twice. Once he states it as the middle way is just this noble eightfold path. Back up here. Whoops, I should go up. And what is this middle way? Or what is that middle way? It is simply this noble eightfold path. So it's formulated, the noble eightfold path is the middle way. And furthermore, in terms of the sort of fourfold medical system of diagnosing the ill, investigating the illness, coming up with a prognosis and then treating the illness, the fourth noble truth is this treatment of the illness. So once again, he reformulates now the noble eightfold path as the fourth noble truth, the noble truth leading to the end of suffering. Where are we? Now this is the noble truth of the practice that leads to the cessation or ending. Cessation means ending. To the cessation of suffering, in Ajahn Brahm's yet to be released, published version of this, he uses ending of suffering. It is simply this noble eightfold path that is right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right immersion. And that's the medicine. That is the treatment plan. Treatment plan for treating this systemic illness that we call suffering. And it's systemic because it's right throughout the body and right throughout the mind and right throughout the heart. And the treatment begins with the mind. And that is right view. So back to Word of the Buddha. Right view, right understanding. Sama ditthi. So ditthi is literally to see things, to view. So right view, right understanding. But right view and right understanding really are very, very much synonymous. So, where am I going here? The first factor, right understanding. And what is this right understanding that we're supposed to have that begins it? And just going through that very quickly here, which is understanding those four truths that we just went through, understanding merit and demerit, and understanding what even merit and demerit means, what that actually is a thing, right? Many modern people they don't really understand what merit actually is. So what now is right understanding? Understanding the Four Noble Truths. So let's pop over to Digha Nikaya 24 and see what we've got to say over there about it. What is 24? Come on. Right. This is the Paticaputta Sutta. This is a really long one. And so it's all about distorted perspective, this one. And so the ones with distorted perspective cannot be liberated. So this is wrong view, right? So here the Buddha goes through an awful lot of wrong views in great detail. I went through this to find the right place to start. Just bear with me. Here we go. I got asked this question at lunchtime today, and I should have brought this up. I wasn't quite sure where to start with this one on, because it starts with the Buddha, or at least goes through with the Buddha debunking the idea that God created the universe. Okay, here we go. There are some ascetics and Brahmins who describe the origin of the world in their tradition as created by the Lord God. And I go up to them and say, is it really true that you believe this? And they answer yes. And I say to them, but how do you describe in your tradition that the origin of the world came about as created by the Lord God? How do you describe in your tradition that the origin of the world came about as created by the Lord God, by Brahma. But they cannot answer, and they even question me in return. What does this actually mean here? They cannot answer, because I reckon ours would be having great long answers. But their answers boil down to God created it. But if you say, how did God create it? What process did God go through to create the world? What creation process did he do? Then they can't answer you. They'll just go, oh, God created it. Won't they? So this is what the Buddha, I think this is what the Buddha's saying here. I could be wrong. Somebody else might have a different take on this. But here where he says they cannot answer, I can only imagine he's speaking to process, because he usually does speak to process. And so his question is about process. So I answered, and so now he is talking about process. He's now launching into a description of how the universe comes in, the world comes to an existence, and how beings come to exist in the world, separate to a abracadabra, poof, magic wand creation moment by a god, which nobody seems to be able to describe how that actually works. How does that work? So they cannot answer how does that work, and they even question me in return. So I answer them. There comes a time when, reverends, after a very long period has passed, this cosmos contracts. End of the universe, right? And as the cosmos contracts, sentient beings are mostly headed for the realm of streaming radiance. Well, I guess if matter, you can't manifest in matter anymore, then you're going to have to go to the realms of the mind. So here he's saying that the beings mostly head for the realms of streaming radiance. Doesn't mention where the others head for. Possibly darker places. But those who head for the realm of streaming radiance, there they are mind-made, right? There's no universe, because the cosmos has contracted, the world systems have contracted, there's no matter, so they're mind-made, feeding on rapture, self-luminous, moving through the sky, steadily glorious, and they remain like that for a very long time. And there comes a time when, after a very long period has passed, the cosmos expands, perhaps something like our scientists might call the Big Bang. Expanding cosmos. And as it expands, an empty mansion of Brahma appears, what we would call a heaven. Then a certain sentient being, due to the running out of their lifespan or their merit, passes away from the host of radiant deities, and is reborn into that empty mansion of Brahma. So the very first being reborn into this newly expanded cosmos. And there they are mind-made, feeding on rapture, self-luminous, moving through this new sky and this new cosmos, steadily glorious, and they remain like that for a very long time. But after staying there all alone for a long time, they become dissatisfied and anxious. Oh, if only another being would come to this state of existence. I'm lonely. Then other sentient beings, due to the running out of their lifespan or merit, pass away from that host of radiant deities and are reborn in that empty mansion of Brahma, or in that heaven, in company with that being. There they too are mind-made, feeding on rapture, self-luminous, moving through the sky. steadily glorious, and they remain like that for a very long time. Now the being who was reborn there first thinks, I am Brahma, the great Brahma, the undefeated, the champion, the universal seer, the wielder of power, the Lord God, the maker, the creator, the author, the best, the begetter, the controller, the father of those who have been born and of those yet to be born. Gee, this sounds familiar, doesn't it? And why is that? Because first I thought, oh, if only another being had come to this state of existence, such was my heart's wish. And then these creatures came to this state of existence. I must have created them, right? It's like thinking, oh, I'd really like some people to come and bring dana. Oh, and look, they walked around the corner. I must have created them. I created the people who came for dana. Poof, there they were. No, I think they came into existence quite separate to my wish. And the beings who, however, the beings also thought, those beings who were reborn there later also think, oh, this guy was here first, yeah? This must be Brahma, the great Brahma, the undefeated, the champion, the universal seer, the wielder of power, the Lord God, the creator, the author, the best, the begetter, the controller, the father of those who have been born and those yet to be born. I can see a flaw in this already. Well, fathers don't give birth. Got a bit of a problem here. Any being that gives birth is by definition a mother. So we've got a slight problem here, but nevertheless, continuing on with Brahmanic feeling that men give birth to men. Okay. But hey, that's just, I guess, me being a woman, I'm going to notice that. Slight error. So not only do they think that the God's male, but there you go. They think we have been created by him. Why is that? Because we see that he was reborn here first and we arrived later. Interesting. And the being who was reborn first is more long-lived, beautiful, and illustrious than those who arrived later. It is possible that one of those beings passes away from that host and is reborn in this state of existence as a human. Having done so, they go forth from the lay life to homelessness. By dint of keen, resolute, committed and diligent effort and right focus, they experience an immersion of the heart of such a kind that they recollect that past life but no further. So they say, he who is Brahma, the great Brahma, the undefeated, the champion, etc., etc., etc. Oh no, shall I keep on with the epithets? The universal seer, the wielder of power, the Lord God, the creator, the author, the best, the begetter, the controller, the father of those who have been born and those yet to be born, is permanent, everlasting, eternal, imperishable, remaining the same for all eternity. We who were created by that Brahma are impermanent, not lasting, short-lived, perishable, and have come to this state of existence. This is how you describe in your tradition that the origin of the world came about as created by the Lord God Brahma. They say, this is what we have heard, right, Reverend Gautama, just as you say. Bhagava, I understand the origin of the world. I understand this and what goes beyond this. Yet since I do not misapprehend that this understanding misapprehend. Misunderstand? I understand this and what goes beyond this. I believe this is the Buddha himself speaking. Yet since I do not misunderstand that understanding, misapprehend is to grasp it wrongly, right? To misapprehend is to grab that understanding in a wrong way. And the Buddha says he's not grabbing the understanding in a wrong way. So since he's not misunderstanding the understanding, then he has realized extinguishing within himself. Directly knowing this, the realized one does not come to ruin. There are some, so I guess this one goes through all these different wrong views. So they are ascetics and Brahmins who describe the origin of the world in their tradition as due to those depraved by play. Can't say I've heard that one. What does he say to this? So there are gods. So this is what he tells the people who believe that the origin of the world came about by those depraved by play. And I reckon, in terms of a Western tradition, I don't know about the East, but people who, the Puritan type realm, the Puritans back in European and English history thought that having fun and playing and music and entertainments were evil, and that the cause of all evil was being depraved by pleasures. It's often the sort of underlying belief behind self-torture types religions, where you should torture yourself. Of course, many of the European traditions were very much into torturing other people in the name of God, but also torturing themselves. So there are gods named depraved by play. They spend too much time laughing, playing, and making merry. That sounds like an Aussie heaven. And in doing so, they lose their mindfulness and they pass away from the host of gods. It is possible that one of those beings passes away from that host and is reborn in this state of existence, i.e. as a human. And having done so, they go forth from the lay life to the homelessness, and by dint of keen, resolute, committed and diligent effort and right focus, they experience an immersion of the heart of such a kind that they recollect that past life, but no further. So I guess when he's talking about this, he's saying that these sages do correctly remember a cause, but they don't go far enough. They're remembering only as far as their immediate past life for the causes they see now. And that because they're not seeing deeply enough, that this is giving them a wrong perspective on the situation. So they've recollected that past life, but no further. So they therefore, like the blind men and the elephant, they think this is the only truth, not that this is a part of the truth. So they say, the gods not depraved by play don't spend too much time laughing, playing and making merry, so they don't lose their mindfulness and don't pass away from that host of gods. Too many double negatives there. They are permanent, everlasting, eternal, imperishable and remaining the same for all eternity. But we who were depraved by play spend too much time laughing and playing and making merry, and in doing so we lost our mindfulness and passed away from that host of gods. Have you seen the bit that's wrong view yet? I suspect, and I'm sure the Buddha will make this clear, but I suspect it's the bit that is, they are permanent, everlasting, internal, imperishable, and remaining the same for all eternity. But we do tend to think that about gods, yeah? I suspect this is the wrong view that the Buddha's pointing out here, that gods are not permanent, everlasting, eternal, and all the rest of that. So I'm going to zoom down a bit. Alright, yeah. And again another... So he's going through various different kinds of gods who pass away and think that all the other gods are permanent except them. And they passed away from their heaven because they did this wrong or that wrong, depraved by play. Here's the ones that are getting angry with each other, and because they got angry with each other, their life as gods was cut short, which is probably also true. All these other things are also true. Right? They lost their mindfulness, and so their time as a god was cut short. These guys got angry, so their time... This is all true. It's just not the whole story. It's only a very... It doesn't give the true picture. So it's going through a whole few different views. Non-Pacific gods. The self and the cosmos arose by chance. The entering and remaining in the liberation of the beautiful. Now, what is we saying? Okay. So he goes. You can go through and have a look at all the different views he says just aren't realistic. And then he comes to the point of people having the wrong view about him. And this is a major obstacle to our own practice if we have the wrong view about the Buddha himself. And he says here, though I speak and explain like this, certain ascetics and Brahmins misrepresent me with the false, hollow, lying and untruthful claim that the ascetic Gautama has a distorted perspective, and so have his monks. They say that he says, if you know, just so as we don't get... When one enters and remains in the liberation of the beautiful, at that time one only perceives what is ugly. And in a way that's a bit like modern people saying, oh, but Buddhism is so depressing because all you do is teach about suffering. You know, it's really not depressing. We're teaching about the ending of suffering, which is really actually uplifting. Anyway, so now he's saying, but I don't say that. He doesn't say that at all. I say this. When one enters and remains in the liberation of the beautiful, at that time one only perceives what is beautiful. They are the ones with the distorted perspective who regard the Buddha and the mendicants this way. And the guy questioning him now says, Sir, I'm quite confident that the Buddha is capable of teaching me so that I can enter and remain in the liberation of the beautiful. And the Buddha replies to him, it's hard for you to enter and remain in the liberation on the beautiful, since you have a different view, creed, preference, practice, and tradition. And strangely, but the wanderer was quite satisfied with that. Your whole view is different, so you're just not going to be able to enter this liberation with that point of view. So that's that. I don't know how that really helps us in our daily life, but it's a bit interesting actually. So what else have we got? Right view, Samyutta Sutta. Now this is one from Sariputta. And Sariputta said this: they speak of this thing called right view. Who translated this? Oh, Sujato. How do you define a noble disciple who has right view, whose view is correct, who has experiential confidence in the teaching, and has come to the true teaching? You know, when you start reading a sutta by Sariputta, you can actually hear quite different voice. The style of the teaching's quite different. So the Sariputta speaks, and the people he's speaking to say, Reverend, we would travel a long way to learn the meaning of this statement in the presence of Venerable Sariputta. Please explain it to us. May Venerable Sariputta please clarify the meaning of this. We will listen and remember it. Well then, listen and pay close attention, I will speak. Yes, Reverend. A noble disciple understands the unskillful and its root, and the skillful and its root. And when they've done this, they're defined as a noble disciple who has right view, whose view is correct, who has experiential confidence in the teaching, and has come to the true teaching. But what is the unskillful, and what is its root? What is the skillful, and what is its root? Yeah, we need to know that, if understanding that is the basis of right view. Killing living creatures, stealing, sexual misconduct, speech that's false, divisive, harsh or nonsensical, covetousness, ill will, and wrong view. This is called the unskillful. And what is the root of the unskillful? Greed, hate, and delusion. This is called the root of the unskillful. Now, if you wondered where that was explained in the suttas, there you have it. It's explained in that way by Sariputta. Greed, hate, and delusion as the three roots of the unskillful. Akusala, as you can see in the Pali there. And what is the skillful? Avoiding killing living creatures, avoiding stealing, avoiding sexual misconduct, avoiding speech that's false, divisive, harsh or nonsensical, contentment, goodwill, and right view. And here we see the first 4 of the 5 precepts. And you can see in these early days, we had 4, the lay people had 4 precepts, not 5. The 5th was added considerably later. Anyway, so basically keeping the precepts plus contentment, goodwill. Remember I spoke about contentment before? Like, if we can be contented with things being just the way they are when stuff's going the way we don't want it to be. I don't know. When the teenage daughter's pregnant, when the elderly relatives got COVID, when the uncles had a car crash, when best friends failed their exam. You know, these things, these times when life is not going the way we want it to go, in a really intense and full-on way. The things that lead people to kill themselves, yeah? This is where we need this contentment, goodwill, and right view? How can we have contentment and goodwill towards the teenage pregnancy, the elder with COVID, the guy, the person in jail, the person with mental illness, failing your exam? I've noticed some people get as much stress at not getting an A on their exam as other people get for failing it. Yeah? What if we could have contentment, goodwill with just the way it is? This is called the skillful. And the root of the skillful, contentment, love, understanding. Understanding that these things happen. That it's just as normal and natural for there to be unpleasant feelings as it is for there to be pleasant feelings. In fact, sometimes pleasant feelings can be rather harder to come by. And it's the craving for those pleasant feelings that prevents us from having contentment with the unpleasant feelings. I keep coming back to that craving for the pleasant feelings, because this is what prevents the skillful contentment, love and understanding. A noble disciple understands in this way the unskillful and its root, and the unskillful and its root. They've completely given up the underlying tendency to greed, got rid of the underlying tendency to repulsion, and eradicated the underlying tendency to the view and conceit I am. They've given up ignorance and given rise to knowledge, and make an end of suffering in this very life. And when they've done this, they're defined as a noble disciple. And saying, "Good sir, those mendicants approved and agreed with Sariputta." And then they asked another question, because perhaps, just like me, whilst what he said was very straightforward, I don't quite get it. Like, it's okay for him to say, yeah, that's the root, and there's the cause, and I can see that going back up a bit, I can see that the root of the skillful is contentment, love and understanding, and I can see the root of the unskillful is greed, hatred and delusion, yep, and that killing living creatures and all that, right? But how do I stop my hand smashing that mosquito? In the moment that it's biting me, in the moment that there's an ant's nest in the back garden where the kids play, those things. When avoiding speech that's false or harsh, avoiding harsh speech, doing that when we're in a hurry, sick, frustrated, rushing, and somebody else is just not doing the thing that we feel that they should do. Avoiding harsh speech in that case is really hard, right? Sometimes it just pops out. This how do we do that bit? Yeah. So very well, I'm saying, this is true, and I can, intellectually I can see this. What the bit I can't quite get yet is, how do I get from, they're the roots of the unskillful, and The noble disciple understands and completely gives up the underlying tendency to greed and eradicating the underlying tendency to the conceit I am. Ooh, that seems a bit of a jump for me. How do I get to that bit? So I'm afraid I'm with the questioners here. I don't get it. I don't get how to give up this. So they very gently and very respectfully ask, but sir, might there be another way to describe a noble disciple who has right view, whose view is correct, who has experiential confidence in the teaching, who's come to the true teaching? There might, reverends. So a noble disciple understands fuel, its origin, its ending, and the practice that leads to its ending. And when they're done, fuel, and when they've done this, they're defined as a noble disciple who has right view. But what is fuel? What's its origin or its beginning? What's its cessation or ending? And what is this practice that leads to its ending? There are 4 fuels. They maintain the sentient beings that have been born and help those that are about to be born. What food? Solid food, whether coarse or fine. That's number 1. Contact is the second. And by contact here, I think we spoke about contact in the second Noble Truth, where the sense base, the I, and the external object, the light, and the mind of consciousness. So the body is the I, the mind is the consciousness, and the external object. So the external object, the internal object, and the consciousness that knows come together. And when those 3 things come together, that's contact. So I, light, knowing of the knowing of light, those 3 coming together is contact. So contact is a fuel. So physical solid fuel, solid food is a fuel for the body. Contact is a fuel. Mental intention, the 3rd fuel, and consciousness is the 4th fuel. Fuel originates from craving. Fuel ceases when craving ceases. The practice that leads to the cessation of fuel is simply this Noble Eightfold Path. Okay, we came back to this again. Right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right immersion. A noble disciple understands in this way fuel, its origin, its cessation, and the practice that leads it to it. Oh dear, I'm not sure if I understand that either. So they don't either, and they ask for another way. So then Sariputta says they might, if they could understand suffering, its origin, its cessation, and the practice that leads to its cessation. So we're back to 4 Noble Truths here. So 4 Noble Truths, once again, we're talking right view. So understanding 4 Noble Truths is right view. And you go through that. And might there be another way? Because we already looked at 4 Noble Truths. We didn't get that yet. So there might be another way. And noble disciples understands old age and death, their origin, their cessation, and the practice that leads to cessation. And what's old age and death? Well, old age is decrepitude, broken teeth, grey hair, wrinkly skin, diminished vitality, failing faculties. Yeah, sounds about right. And what is death? Well, we know what death is. passing away, perishing, disintegration, demise, mortality, decease, breaking up. And old age and death originate from rebirth. Old age and death cease when rebirth ceases. The practice that leads to the cessation of old age and death is simply this Noble Eightfold Path. And around it goes. And rebirth, you've got to understand rebirth, you might understand existence. And then what else? Grasping. This one's interesting. What is grasping? Here are these 4 kinds of grasping. Grasping at sensual pleasures, grasping at views, grasping at precepts and observances, and grasping at theories of a self. I can see how all of these things lead to suffering. Grasping ceases when craving ceases, and then we go back to Noble Eightfold Path. Craving. 6 classes of craving. Craving for sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touches and thoughts. Understanding feeling, the 6 classes of feeling. And that's once again through each of the 6 sense bases. Then there's understanding contact. So if you go through here, there's all sorts of things that you can use in your meditation practice to contemplate on. I'll just contemplate contact today. I'll contemplate feeling today. I'll contemplate sense bases today. All the different things. Sense fields. I mean, Sariputtas are always really long, and we're starting to go past the hour. And I think here he's starting to go into dependent origination. So what else have we got? Number 9. Understanding merit and demerit is really important part of right view. We won't go into that too much. But once again, I think Bhante Sariputta did go through a lot of that, where he starts with the 4 of the precepts. But Majjhima Nikaya number 9 goes into that in a great deal more depth. But one of the ways I understand merit and demerit, so we'll go into right view in a lot more depth next week. But I want to talk about my understanding of merit and demerit as I observe it in the world. And first of all, I'd like you to think back and think about when someone walked into the room and they were really angry. And even if you had your back to them, you would be able to feel that anger radiating out through the room, yeah? Well, that's demerit. Because as soon as that person walks into the room radiating anger, everybody in that room gets an unpleasant feeling. Everybody in the room gets an unpleasant feeling as a result of that anger. And the person walking in the room is the trigger for those unpleasant feelings, and so therefore the cause of suffering in others. Therefore, demerit is that causing suffering of others, and it can be just as simple as walking into a room angry. You don't have to say anything, you don't have to do anything, it's just unpleasant for everybody else. It ripples out, right? But should you actually do angry things, then often that can make other people angry, and so that demerit then ripples out from you, and then that person starts doing demerit. Now, think about the opposite thing. When someone walks in the room really happy, really loving, really kind, and you can feel that, and everybody gets a pleasant feeling. Yeah? And so that person's kindness is giving everybody in the room a pleasant feeling. So that's a good karma. Yeah, that's a good thing to do. It's really nice. It's pleasant for them, pleasant for everybody else in the room. Then, should they then go and do something beneficial and wholesome, such as bringing dana, for example, and sharing food with everybody, that gives everybody a pleasant feeling, and it very often encourages others to be feeling kind and generous, which ripples out amongst their to do kindness. And so one person doing something kind and generous then encourages other people to, well, first of all, the energy of that ripples out and touches and affects everybody and is a beneficial and beautiful effect. And then it encourages other people to also do good things. And so it has a knock-on effect of rippling outwards into the community in a very tangible way. So the way I see this very tangible effect of merit and demerit. And when we keep precepts, which is, as you can see here, very much going through the precepts of harming living beings, stealing, putting our sexual needs onto others who don't have the power to say no, which is the Vinaya description of the basis of sexual misconduct. Yeah. Basically putting your sexual desires onto somebody else who's not in a position to have the power to say no. Lying, tale-bearing, harsh language, those kinds of things, yeah. When we engage in those things that they talk about as demerit, then we make our life more unhappy and we give ourselves lots of unpleasant feelings. And our actions cause other people to have unpleasant feelings. We make their lives unhappy. And very often unwholesome, unskillful behaviour rubs off. And you know, when someone is associating with people who have unskillful behaviour, they very often pick up those unskillful behaviours, and then that ricochets out and increases the net amount of unskillful behaviour happening in the community. And then the opposite occurs, of course, with merit, right? When we're engaging in meritorious deeds, I think we forget how much impact that actually has on the community, right? How much impact that has on our own lives, how much impact that has on the people directly around us, and how much the knock-on effect of that impacts the community. And this is merit and demerit. The impact of what we do, say and think has on our lives and the lives of our community. And when the people are doing beautiful things, that makes our lives more beautiful, the lives of the people around us knocks on into the community, makes the community happier. When we engage in demeritorious deeds, in karmically unskillful, karmically unwholesome things, yeah, then we're not happy, and people around us are not happy, and boom, 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 out it goes into the community. And furthermore, when we do those beautiful things, we encourage other people to do beautiful things. Merit is just the most awesome thing, you know. Good merit, beautiful behaviour, beautiful ways of speaking. You know, when you meet someone and you're like really impressed at the beauty and skillfulness of the way they speak, and you can think, wow, I'd like to speak like that. I'd like to be able to speak like that. And then you can start copying them and observing how they do it, how they manage in different situations more skillfully. Oh, I wouldn't have thought to say it that way. And then you learn from them, right? And then maybe one day you can become the person who other people learn skillful speech from, yeah? Over time, like that, as you increase and improve. So that's understanding demerit and merit. And I think it now being 7:45, I'll bring this Dhamma talk to an end, and I totally hope that was of some benefit. perhaps of more benefit than me just reading it all out to you, but that's kind of mainly what it was. So, may you all be well and happy. May the Triple Gem bless you by being manifest in your lives. May we all manifest the Triple Gem in our lives by doing the Dharma in our body, speech and mind all the time.